because of my glasses, I was not qualified for a pilot. So this is my only chance to say, hello, this is your captain speaking. Anyway, I'm not your captain, but in any case, just an informal announcement. It seems that the Greek participants who have chosen not to use the bus and take their own cars, which is, in Greece we always use our cars, even if we have to go just 5 minutes from where we are. They're a little, they face some trouble, coming on time. So we will wait for 5 more 10 minutes and then we will start. We have plenty of time ahead of us, so don't worry about that. There are a few people that notified us yesterday and the day before yesterday that they're not going to come. Of course, we cannot just erase them from the program, and it's also not very polite, to just erase people. So, maybe, especially tomorrow, not today, tomorrow you will see that maybe in the program there are 4 presentations and actually 3 are going to be implemented or 2, but this is, this is life. This is what happens. What else? Yes, bravo. Saskia is... hire Saskia to remind you things. She's the best person for this. We have sent you many days ago a notification if you wish to participate in the social dinner tomorrow. The social dinner is, it's informal. We will just go out, it's not in part of the conference, but to celebrate the fact that we managed to get together. So far we have about, 26 people that have filled the form. Of course, being a Greek, I understand that if 25 have registered, I will book for 40. But in any case, if you still have time by the end of today, please register so to have a more accurate number. To notify the restaurant, because we will tell them that 40 people are coming, and at least we want to have 25 there. We have already spotted a place which is nice, with nice food and nice wine. As who asked me for nice wine? You asked me for nice wine. Yes. So everything is. Yeah, and a nice view. We'll be looking at each other. This is the best view. This is the best view. So give us just 5 more minutes to see and find out where, because Alexis is not here, Manos is not here, other people that I know from Greece are not here. What? Are they walking? Oh, they are driving. Okay, because if they're walking that 20 minutes, it's natural. But in any case. So please give us 5 more minutes and then we will start, and as they come, they will join us. So this is it, okay? Okay, wonderful. Have a safe flight.
All right. Good morning from our side. We are a little bit late, not too late. So we're going to keep it short and simple, so that we can enter this new day with an interesting keynote, 2 interesting keynotes, and then we will head off to the rest of the program. So before we start, there's one organizational thing that we would like to ask you. We are a little bit on Twitter, and we want to be a little bit more on Twitter. So we were wondering if there is any one of you who does not want to be on photos, you just let us know. Okay, great. Cool. Besides that, George already said that the social dinner is going to happen tomorrow night, and it's a nice sea view rooftop place. That's what he told us. So we were convinced that's why we signed up. And of course, because it's a great social dinner we're going to have. All right, so we're going to start today. It's going to be Alessandra and me who will tell you a little bit about the network and about the conference topic. And then we will pass the torch to the keynote speakers. And we would just, start right now. So as you can see, we have a bunch of logos up here. The Hellenic Open University, that's where we are. We have the Israel logo. Why? Because we are a network that is organized within the Israel Society. We have our logo, of course, the Transformative and Emancipatory Adult Education one. So in case you were wondering what kind of conference you're attending, it's this one. And we have one from the Italian Transformative Learning Network, and you will learn a little bit more about that network later and what our connections are. But first, we will go to the Israel Society, and we wanted to just briefly introduce Israel. Most of you know about Israel. We assume that most of you are members already. If not, you can sign up for it. So it's a nonprofit organization from 1992. There are 12 elected members who steer the committee and the society. Marcella Milana is the chair, Fergal Finnegan is co-chair, and we have Susanne Latke. She is the secretary of Israel. Why is Israel interesting and why should you join? Well, for a bunch of reasons. This is a very interesting network, not only because it connects us in Europe and I would say also a little bit beyond, but one of the main interests is to support advancement of high quality research on the education and learning of adults. And it's important to do this also through working together in networks and conferences and publications. So you're attending this wonderful conference. And if you want to publish your work, you can do that, for example, through RELA. That's the open access journal from Israel. You can go to the website and check it out. And find a chance and get your work published. It's important because we have special offers for PhD students that are dedicated to certain events, schools like summer schools and bursaries. So if you're not a member, sign up. That's my little advertisement session. Okay. So most of you probably know that even though we said yesterday, this is the first network conference, this is not the first transformative learning network that is connected to the European context. It's actually the second one. So the first one had a little bit of a different name, which was Transformative Process in Learning and Education, TPLE. Our new network called TEAE, Transformative and Emancipatory Adult Education. I would say a little bit more about how these networks are different and what they have in common, so that you get a little bit of an idea about this. So both are grounded in the idea of transformation and in the tradition of transformative learning and its emancipatory potential. However, as you can see with the names, there is quite a difference when it comes to either adult education or learning. And since we are from various different European disciplines, we of course have a different focus on whether it's adult learning or adult education. So we want to be very inclusive with that, and we put more of an emancipatory focus or emphasis within the network. Of course, it's important for us not to say that this is like a completely new network and we're not doing what has been done before. that would not be correct, and that's not where we want to go. Instead, we asked ourselves, and we continue asking ourselves, how can we build bridges? So we want to build a bridge between the old network and the new network. Both of them are rooted in the vision of researching and promoting transformative learning and education. There are some shared goals, like creating space for enhancing international dialogue and research on transformative process in learning and education, as you can see here. So we have these shared goals, and what is very important to us is not only trying to figure out ways how we can connect the past and the future network, but also how can we build bridges between us as a community? How can we co-create this community? So we invite you to engage with these questions, and we will have another conversation tomorrow later. And we are very interested in learning from you and getting to know more about what you are hoping for that this network can do, how it can support you. And these are questions that really go beyond the idea of connecting the past and the future, or this recent network. So one of the questions that we're still having is, what bridges do we need to build and cross? This could be in terms of themes and topics, certain different communities, etc. What do we need to grow as a community? Even though this is our first conference or our first network conference, we are interested in co-creating this community with you, and we wonder, what do we need to grow when we want to grow together as a community? And of course, for us, it's very important to know what can we as conveners do to support this process. So if you have ideas of what would be helpful and what would be interesting, then let us know. We're very happy to learn more about this. We were also wondering, and this, of course, is connected to the conference topic, how can we together reimagine transformative and emancipatory adult education and adult learning? And more broadly speaking, how can we reimagine transformation? Like, how can we think about transformation and emancipation in a different way? How can we open up the discourse? How can we be more inclusive? How can we give more space to the topics that are under-researched? How can we be inclusive when it comes to practitioners and scholars and scholar practitioners and researchers? So we really want to create this vital co-create this community. And since we are in this together, we're interested in what is it that you need or that you would hope for? What kind of community should this be that you, for example, get like a sense of belonging, that you belong to a community that shares some of your interests, research interests, some of the things that drive you and that move you and that motivate you to be in academia or in practice. So this is important to us. This is what we want to know. And instead of just telling you, oh, this is what we're going to do and this is what's important to us, we are going to tell you what's important to us in a minute. But we do want to learn from you and hear from you. What is it that we need to keep in mind? What is it that you would hope for? Okay. This is something I've said over and over again. This is really about co-creating a vital community in Europe. And we want to, of course, cultivate research, scholarships, projects about learning and how learning can promote personal, societal, and global transformations. As you can see, this is not about individual transformation. We really want to go beyond. We want to look at what is it that connects us. And we, of course, want to explore critical traditions, theory, research methods, etc. This is something that has been done by the past network too, so we are rooted in that tradition. And I pass over to Alessandra now.
Thank you. And so let's go a little bit further in detail about the conference topic. When George proposed to host this conference, we started a discussion about what can be the topic. What can be the topic of the conference, okay? So first of all, we said, okay, we are interested in transformative education, transformative learning, because as Saskia mentioned, we have different branches and different translations of adult education and adult learning. And so we started from a very broad, open topic. What is the contribution of the transformative learning theory for a world to come. How can we, in a super globalized society, post-pandemic society, where structural racism reign, inequity, social issues, climate changes, and so on, what can be the contribution of the transformative learning and transformative theory? We deliberately choose to stay open. We deliberately choose to have a very general/generic topic because we tried to explore the relevance, if there is still a relevance, of the transformative learning theory for transformation and for change. And we also are trying to push the topic of the conference to some extent. For example, what we can unlearn from our previous study, what we can unlearn as adult educators, as researchers, as scholars, and as human beings. What can we relearn? How can we navigate complexity, ambiguity, multiple positionalities and power dynamics, I want to say, that reign over our heads? So that's the topic of our conference. We know that is a very broad and at the same time challenging topic if we don't want to just to stay on the theory, but we want to offer example, reflections, research in the field. And we choose to have this definition of transformative learning taken from Marcos, that it's about transformation is when there's a dramatic shift, not only in consciousness awareness, consciousness raising, but in our way of being in the world and relate with ourselves and the others. And it recalls something about unlocking a multiple system of oppressions, multiple systems of power, about race, gender, and I want to say ableism, and so on. Our invitation for this conference is to give value to the idea of having early stage researchers, super well-known experts, in order to validate our taken for granted assumptions about transformation. If everything is transformative, nothing is really transformative. And we can use this small conference as a space, as a dialogic arena for validating our assumptions about our research, our common theoretical background. We can deterritorialize transformative learning from the assumption that we really are able to push people to transformation. We hope so. And we hope also to have new fresh eyes that will help to open up new multiple passageways for the transformative learning theory and research. We hope so. That's our invitation for you, for the multiple sessions, and also for the entire experience of the conference. This morning, we will have two wonderful keynote speeches that will provoke us to, explore new passageways for the transformative learning theory and research. And then we will have the parallel sessions. Use these parallel sessions to create community, exchange, and a dialogic space where you can confront with your taken for granted assumptions. Now it's time to pass on the torch. That will be the metaphor. In order to, pass on the torch, we tried to be respectful for the Olympic tradition of the Greece, okay? Of Peloponneso. So this will be like the metaphor for these double days, for these 2 days of a conference, and it's time for us to pass on the torch to the wonderful two keynote speakers that we have. Thank you.
All right, so we're very excited to announce the first keynote speaker. It's Aliki Nikolaidis. You can see her here. I hope she's going to come on stage very soon so that I don't have to do this. um, yes, please. Yes, that's a sign. Good. Yeah, so we are very, very happy to have her as a keynote speaker. She's a professor of adult learning and leadership at UGA, the University of Georgia. You also know her as a director of the International Transformative Learning Association. And if you want to know more about her research, she just kind of recently published a fantastic book on generative knowing that also inspired us. So before I'm going to pass the torch or the microphone to you, there's always a question of who are we going to have as a keynote speaker, and we have wonderful keynote speakers, and we were wondering, like, I mean, how can we, like, the first person somewhat, like, not only builds bridges, but has to have a very strong connection to our conference topic and kind of provide the ground for what's coming up. So why do we think that Aliki is the perfect person to give the first keynote? There are a bunch of reasons. As a citizen of the world, you have a sense of belonging with a lot of communities, and you have a very strong Greek belonging, I would say. You're also building a bridge between the European and the North American discourse on transformative learning. One of the other things that really struck us is, and having had the privilege to work with you, this was something that really influenced me as a scholar, was that you can actually create a space so that something new can emerge, something that we could not have thought that it's possible before actually that space was given. You build communities and you create vision. And these aspects were so inspiring for us that we thought this is how we want to start this conference, because what we need is build community, and we want to create a new vision, not only of this network, but of us as a community. So I think I'm just going to give you the microphone, because otherwise I just keep talking about how great you are and how much you inspired me. And I don't know if anyone wants to hear that. But also what you might want to check out is one of the latest edited books of Aliki. It's the handbook. And this is also a little bit of a metaphor of how to build bridges, because in that handbook, the discourse was opened, and we had a broader, more wide discourse on what is not really transformative learning, because we were looking from a different lens, like learning for transformation. And what I really find very interesting, and as Alessandra was saying, it's kind of a passageway, is that we really can experience some kind of disruption. And when we start radically questioning the way we think about ourselves and relationships and the theory of transformative learning, then we can enter into a new discourse. And this is something Aliki is particularly good at. So I'm very excited about this session, as you can imagine, and I will now stop speaking so that you have more time to speak.
Can you hear me if I don't use this thing? Can you hear me? For the live streaming, do you need me to speak like this? Or can I speak like this? Can I speak like this? Yes. No. Only like this. Who's the guy behind the glass? What is what I want to know. Kalimera. Can you get rid of this thing that's behind me, please? Thank you. Thank you, Saskia, for that amazing introduction. I really appreciate it. And thank you, this team, Alessandra and George and Dina, who I've just recently met and who's not in the room, for convening us, bringing us together. And I'm excited to be here for many reasons. One is because I am actually Greek, believe it or not. It's not just the hair. But I'm Greek of the diaspora, so I am Asia Minor Greek. My parents are Greeks from Palestine. I am a Greek all the way back for, I think, 6 generations. We go back to what previously was Constantinopolis and now is Istanbul. And my family came from Bursa and Çeşme. So we have a deep history of being people of displacement and people who are nomadic. So this idea of nomadic movement, which Passageways is an interesting way to think about it, is underground. So today I want to spend time going underground with you. That is beneath experience. And I'm not quite sure how it's going to happen, but don't worry, it'll happen. I'm Greek, which means there's a lot of drama in what I do. And there'll be some kind of performance, something will happen, and ta-da, we will be done. So that's the movements that we will be in this morning together. And I want to, the things that you need to know about me is that I am trustworthy, even though none of you really know me. I mean, a few of you know me. So I want to jump into a space that does require you to be a little bit vulnerable with me very fast. And I do that not because I want to be provocative or disrupt you, although I do that a lot too. I want to do it because I think it's really important for us to move beneath the ground of our experience sooner than later, because if we don't, we are in danger of reproducing the same thing over and over and over again. And adult education has been colonized by the machine of efficiency, effectiveness, reproduction, productivity, leadership. Oh, I'm sorry, leadership. Sorry. Sorry. Anyway, right? So if we are, as adult educators, supposed to be transformative, then we ought to step away from becoming the machine that we are. Education has become a machinery. What we do is we feed the machine of efficiency very well. And we do it through the production of learning and knowledge. We produce it very nicely in educational journals, in conferences, in keynote speeches, in becoming a full professor, right? I'm now Aliki full. I'm not just Aliki half, okay? So, there's a lot of things that the productive machine of education makes, but what it doesn't make is transformation. So transformation is an aspirational idea that it's not just Jacques Mezereau, there's Freire, there's before that. You might even say that there are some Greek philosophers who were talking about this. We could also say that there's so many indigenous people who have known about this process and this movement of learning, the dynamic of learning, right, that makes things different. Learning ought to make things different, not the same. But we've become very, very used to making things the same over and over again, just more and faster. More and faster are the 21st century language of the colonizer. So we've been colonized to do more faster, right? And we love it. We're all drinking the Kool-Aid. We're drunk on it, right? We get full professor because I have 24,463 publications in tier 1 journals, right? Which I don't, by the way, right? But that's the machinery that I have to be oppressed by that machinery in order to produce knowledge so that some other guy is going to get it or gal to make something different, which makes nothing and makes it the same, right? So that's not transformation, right? That's the same. So I want to start with how do we get, so this idea of perspective transformation is really just the beginning, right? So the beginning of doing things differently means that we have to take perspective of what we do all the time. What do we do all the time? We save ourselves. We're very good. That is our favorite occupation. I remember Bob Keegan, who is a constructivist. He does adult developmental theory. He said to me, Aliki, the work of the adult learner is to save their ass over and over again. I think, wow, that's really interesting. But it is exactly what we do. And in fact, we give PhDs in ass saving. That's what we do. right? Because saving PhDs means I get a job, I get promoted, right? It doesn't have to be just in the academy. In the United States, I was talking to Timothy Ireland over there, how in the US, my PhD students predominantly want to get promoted. That is the motivation for doing learning. Well, if that's the motivation for doing learning, how on earth are we going to create transformation, right? So I'm offering this introduction just because I want you to know a little bit about my positionality, which is yes, I like to provoke, yes, I'm very dramatic, and yes, I'm asking a new question. The question I'm asking now is, what does learning make different? And what difference does learning make? I'm very curious about that. And I don't care which theory we use to do it. I want to get to the root of making things different. And if transformational learning is a way there, that's fine. But there could be really other ways of thinking, like potentially maybe through the arts, or maybe through poetry, or literature, or economics, or politics, right? Or surrealism, right? So what are the tools, the methods, the processes that we must, as adult educations, reimagine because the world is in despair? One might argue that the world is always in despair, right? We're always like that. But why is it that we find ourselves always at a point of crisis? It's an interesting thing. You know, in 2010, when we had the conference in Athens with Alexis, yes, Alexis, the title was, we were doing something about crisis, right? Transformation in the era of crisis. And have you noticed that we are now 2023? We're still talking about crisis. Well, what about creativity? What about creation? Why aren't we creating things? Why are we just in the crisis of our reality? Where is the creation happening? So, in order to create, and the Greeks are very good at this, by the way, this is our specialty, we destroy. In order to destroy, we have to grow in compassion and love. In order to love and be in compassion, we have to go beneath our own experience. We have to become real with ourselves. So the point of departure today is I want to introduce you to a practice. You can pretend, you don't have to do it. It's just an invitation. If you want to do it, you do it. But the practice is called listening into the dark. Sometimes the underground can feel dark and is dark, right? Sometimes there's a lack of illumination. But very soon, if you attune yourself to the dark, things become very sparkly. Have you noticed that? Like, things start to have a luminosity that you didn't expect. You are surprised by. So listening into the dark it begins first as an individual practice. So the invitation is for you to sit in a way that just feels comfortable in these very uncomfortable chairs, but for you to be in relationship to yourself, right? And some people like to listen into the dark by closing their eyes or looking down. So you do it whichever way you like, but the idea is to turn the gaze of your attention, and that's not just by your eyes, your internal gaze of attention, to what is inside. And that's the underground of experience. Believe it or not, I'm not the first person to talk about this. John Dewey talked about this a long, long time ago in the 1930s. He said, in order for us to learn from experience, we must be had by experience. That's an interesting turn of phrase. To be had by an experience means I must go beneath experience, where I do not know what that experience is trying to reveal to me. So the first practice is, can I go beneath my experience? You can use the experience right now of sitting in a chair in Patras, in the Peloponnese, exploring these ideas together. That's one experience you're having right now. You could be in the experience of anticipating your presentation and wondering, what the hell am I going to say? You could be in the experience of wondering, what the hell is a leaky saying? Whatever experience you choose to be in the experience of that for just a minute. We're just going to do it for a couple of minutes. And ask yourself, what is the experience I am in now and what is being revealed? That's all I'm asking you to do, okay? Can you do it? If you don't want to do it, just sit still, all right? And then I'll come back to you, all right? Okay, so we're going to do it for 2 minutes. Who has a phone? I can do it. Okay, no, George has a phone. George, 2 minutes, please.
Also, this device.
Whichever device you use, George, you're in charge of time. Okay. I need 2 minutes, and in 2 minutes, what I need you to do is just wave your hand.
Okay.
Okay?
When do we start?
Now, just turn inside, whichever version of inside you want to be, and ask yourself, what is the experience I'm having now, and what is being revealed? That's it. Thank you very much, George. What is being revealed? And so I want you to find the person next to you or in front of you or behind you. Just a short little conversation in whichever language you are most comfortable in. How would you answer the question, what was revealed in this moment? Go ahead. All right, so wherever you are, just find a place of pause. What I love is that the question reveals that there is much to be revealed, right? The question, what is being revealed, reveals that there's much to be revealed when you move beneath experience. However, our academic institutions, the castle of adult education is built on the ground of the mind, as if the mind has no underground. The mind is but what is at the top of the leaf that receives the sunlight, that allows for photosynthesis to feed the root system. But what is the learning of the roots? The learning of the roots, the going beneath, is messy. It's extremely uncomfortable. It's dark. It's dirty. It smells sometimes, right? We don't like it because enlightenment, right? The whole movement of enlightenment, it even sounds good. It's enlightening, right? We don't talk about the underground where the illumination doesn't come from the sun. The illumination comes from the darkness of our being and becoming. Being and becoming is dark work. Dark work requires learning. Learning must be liberated from the light to go beneath so that something new can be created, so that we can actually make transformation work, right? Please talk in this way, right? I don't like this. I need to have like a, where's Janet Jackson, you know? Sorry, I'm definitely aging myself, of which I'm not that old. But anyway, I want to talk a little bit about my lineage, because I think it's important that you understand that what I'm up to these days is weird. I am the lineage holder of the Asia Minor Greeks of the diaspora, of which Homer was one, by the way, just saying. And from that diaspora come people who are always on the move. And people who are on the move are called refugees, or displaced people, or forced migrants. They usually don't look like me right now, but they used to look like me. Nowadays, they might look Syrian, or Afghanistani, or Ukrainian, or Russian, or Bangladeshi, or Pakistani, right? So our people on the move is something that's happened for centuries. And yet, people on the move have not got a sense of belonging. So my lineage is on the move and in movement and in flow, and it took me about 35 years, maybe 45, let's say 50, because I'm 54 now, which means I was 4 years old and already enlightened. No, I'm just kidding. But it took that long for me to find that being in the flow and being on the move was how I belong. And I tried for a very long time to become American, to become Greek of Greece, to become Palestinian, to become Singaporean. These are all my roots, by the way, right? To become Aliki. And becoming Aliki turns out to be more of a flow than a thing. More of a mess than an accomplishment. More dark, less light. More light sometimes, and still dark. It was March 5th, 2020, and I was on my way to the gym. My parents, my father is 92 years old. My mother is, I can't tell you her age because it's my mother, came to live with me in February of 2019. We made a decision as a family that my parents were now of the age where they needed to return to one of their children. I'm the eldest of three. And we had decided that I was living in the most conducive place. I live in the Athena tis Georgias, Athens, Georgia. Somebody has a good sense of humor. And the weather is very similar. And we realized that, you know, I'm sort of unmarried, single, no children kind of daughter, not that I'm the daughter that was born to take care of my children. For the Greeks in the room, that's important to make that distinction, right? So I am, though, the daughter who is over-responsible and takes her lineage very, you know, seriously. So March 5th, 2020, parents and I are living in the same house. My father is planting some things. He likes to garden. My mother is getting to know the society. You can put my mother on Pluto. She will know everybody within a week. So this is what was happening. March 5th, I am on the way to the gym, and it occurs to me that something is happening in the world that I don't really understand. But you know what? I'm gonna do my routine. I go to the gym, right? And then I'll come home and I'll do some work. You know, I was thinking, my routine, my habit. And I remember I was driving to the gym. I get to the gym, and I'm the only person at the gym, and I'm thinking, this is fantastic. I like being the only person in the gym. And I open the gym door, and all of a sudden, it hits me that I'm touching a door and that I'm about to breathe air that I haven't been in. And it hit me that I'm in a civilization-wide transformation called COVID-19 pandemic. I close the gym door, I go into my car, I drive home, and I lock us down for 2 years. My parents cannot leave the house, and I'm not kidding you. My parents stayed in the house for 2 years. I now have a pandemic garden. My father has planted Saskia can tell you, every tree on the planet now is my backyard, and my job was to keep the pandemic away from my parents. That was my job. And I did it to the point of exhaustion. But whilst I'm driving back to my house from the gym, and I realize that there is this disruption, I realize I have to ask a new question. If learning for transformation is supposed to prevent such disasters, or at least to anticipate them, or at least to create the conditions so that we may respond to them, how come all the theories that I've studied for 25 years are crap? They're not doing a thing. We are in a COVID-19 pandemic, civilization-wide transformation, and nothing is being transformed. Isn't that interesting? That's interesting. So I had to ask a new question. What does learning make now? And that's been my question now since March 5th, 2020. And I'm asking the question because if I go back to the roots of adult education, in our root structure, where it's messy and smelly, where it's dark, there is the aspiration that learning makes things different. That's the aspiration. Any theory, self-directed learning, learning from experience, transformative learning, informal incidental learning, we can talk about any learning theory before I fall you want. At its heart, at its root system, right, is liberation. That's what it is. Ask Paulo Freire if he was in the room, right? This idea that learning makes things different, right? Transformation has been baked into our learning system since before even the Greeks, by the way. I know the Greeks like to say we're the root of knowledge and we began things. We did, in one way. But actually, there was Confucius. There were a lot of indigenous people who were doing this a lot longer than the Greeks were doing it, right? And they were doing it in ways that now we need to learn from so that we can reimagine how do we decolonize learning so that we can make things different. In order to decolonize learning, we have to decolonize ourselves. And reimagination is a decolonizing project. We cannot reimagine. By the way, R-E in Greek is re. Does everyone know what re means? Eh? Exactly. It's an interesting sort of slang in Greek, right? We say, re Yorgo, right? Which is an affectionate way of saying, come on, you need to talk to me, or I need to talk to you. It's an interesting kind of way of, instead of just saying, Yorgo, πάμε κάπου να μιλήσουμε, let's go talk, we say, re Yorgo, and he knows immediately that we need to have a conversation. So reimagination is about a conversation. And it's actually a quite relaxed conversation. It's like that, re Yorgo, πάμε να πάρουμε καφέ, let's go have a coffee, right? But you know that in that conversation, man, something important is going to be said, right? That's what happens when you do a re. So reimagination is the invitation to do things differently, including to just hang out and relax a little bit. Because hanging out and relaxing is a much better way to go in the dark. Because if we go in the dark really stiff and afraid, and oh my God, what's my headlight? Where did I buy it? Like, it's not going to get you into the darkness. You have to go into the darkness a little bit relaxed, a little bit afraid, a little bit willing to encounter the uncertainty, the mystery, the complexity of what is beneath, because it has something to reveal to you, something you cannot possibly know before going dark. Adult education, adult learning has been too much trying to illuminate before going underneath. And as a result, in my opinion, this is just mine, no one else in the room, we are reproducing a system that does not make a difference. It keeps things the same, more and better. We do things more, we do things faster, and we do things better. Bravo, adult education. But what do we make different? That's the question we need to ask as adult educators, because our institutional settings are reproducing the same thing over and over again. And guess what? No one really wants to come anymore. How many of your programs have few PhD students? I'm at the University of Georgia, and we used to get at least 25 applicants every year. Even during the pandemic, we had maybe 16, 17. This is the first time in the history of the University of Georgia, which has a 55-year history, the program, we have 3 PhD students. 3. You know what the dean is saying about that, right? When can we get rid of your program is what the dean is saying, right? Because the efficiency model, do more, do it fast, do it better, doesn't work with 3 people, because 3 people cannot pay my salary. Takes more than 3. So who have I become as an adult educator? I've become a very good reproductive machine for learning that is more fast and better in every way, but that doesn't make really a difference. Now, my doctoral students will give you another story, right? I'm being quite unkind to myself because I feel quite proud of the fact that I do have a few doctoral students who are in the world making a difference, because they struggled with me to learn things that no one else was willing to help them to learn. We were a bit refugees in our own system. We were very nomadic in the methodologies that we took. And I had to take a lot of risks to protect my students, to do the kind of study, to use the kind of methodologies, to do the kind of research that is going to make a difference. But we won't know, because making a difference, oh, by the way, is not efficient. It's not effective. It's not fast. I will never know if the seeds that I've planted as an educator are going to take shape into some form of a bush or tree or flower until perhaps when I die. And am I willing as an adult educator to take that risk, to not know that I could do something different? That's the risk you have to take when you want to make learning that makes a difference. You cannot know it ahead of time. All we can know is a little bit of an aspiration. And oh, by the way, I have no idea what time it is, and I can do this all day. So somebody has got to give me some time frame because I don't do that. How much time do I got?
7 more minutes.
Okay, so with 7 minutes in hand, I think I've done enough. I've been ridiculous enough. Sorry, oops. Ah, don't move. Let's have a conversation. What is being revealed in what I'm saying? Let's just play with the question. What's being revealed? I know you have things to say, so don't pretend.
What is revealed is more question.
Good, nice. So questions are beautiful ways to encounter the dark. Inquiry is the how you call it, the energy, the force behind moving beneath experience. Beautiful. That's one practice. Inquiry. Thank you. See what's being revealed? Yeah. Good question. So, if learning is to make a difference, what difference does learning want to make? Because that's a really good point. It could be that for the past 30 years, it was okay that the difference we made was we made systems more efficient, more effective, blah, blah, blah. Could have been that that's what we wanted all along. We just didn't know, right? Good question. What else? Yes?
It's a challenge to the system when we approach it from this point. And the phrase I get used is the work I do, a slow burn.
Slow burn, yeah. Yeah, there's another phrase that she's an educator from Canada, and I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names, I'm very good with faces. If you want the reference, you'll just ask the committee and then I'll get it to you. But she talks about slow looking as a method. Slow looking requires us to slowly look at our experience over and over and over again. When I tell my story of displacement, I used to be ashamed of the fact that when people said, well, where are you from? I say, well, I'm Greek, Palestinian, American, Singaporean, and I currently live in Athens, Georgia. Well, where are you from? Where are you from is an interesting question because we've learned that where we are from signals my belonging. Am I rich? Am I poor? Am I cisgendered? Am I not, right? So where am I from is a question, it's a question, not an inquiry. Because I don't really want to know you don't really want to know where I'm from. It's just a way of having a conversation that's flat. Oh, you're Greek, Palestinian, Singaporean, American, and back in America, weird. I have no idea how to know you. Goodbye, right? So that's what we do, right? I'll come back to you, 1 second. Any other question in the room? Yes, sir, in the back in pink.
How can we translate the science?
Translate the science of learning? No, the silence. Oh, beautiful, 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 beautiful question. Silence is where revelation happens. We must encounter the silence first, which, by the way, is the scariest work on the planet, so that we may listen and find new language. Saskia has taught me a lot about Richard Rorty, interesting philosopher. He talks about languaging. Silence wants us to use new words. Here's a Greek word that I didn't make up, but it's an interesting word, symathesis. Do you know what that means? Silence is about symathesis, which is mutual learning. You must become mutual with the silence, mutual with the other, mutual with the question. Mutual learning requires more. You want to build community? How do we grow in mutuality? Right? Not how do we perform together, because that's what communities have thought they have to do. We don't have to perform together. How do we learn together? And learning together means we got to get in trouble. Alessandra and I have to get into trouble, right? She's an Italian, I'm a Greek. We got to get into trouble, right? Loretta and I cannot speak the same language. You'll talk to her. She's going to come to you soon. But Loretta and I somehow communicate. We don't have the same language, but yet, because we want to get to know each other, we are mutually learning a language that only she and I can understand. And all she has to do is look at me and I know what she's thinking, right? That's just how it works, right? So thank you for your question, yes. I know I'm talking too much. I know you had a question. Do you want to offer it?
Well, I was going to simply share with you is I'm less interested on where you're from, but more where you're coming from.
Nice. So it's a beautiful inquiry. Where am I coming from is the movement. I'm coming from the flow of my becoming, and what I'm becoming, I don't know. Thank you very much, everybody.
So, all right, thank you so much. I think we will have a lot more chances and time to talk about this, especially during the coffee break that's going to happen now, because I know some of you were looking very forward to the coffee break. So enjoy the coffee break, and we will be back here at 11 for our second keynote speaker, Loretta Fabry.
we want to welcome you with the second keynote speaker, and it's a huge honor for me to introduce this second session with this keynote speaker. We will have a special guest here. I'm speaking about Olivia. She will be like the future next generation of the transformative learning research. So we are trying to cultivate multiple generations of, and so we hope that you will really appreciate this warm introduction. It's for me a thank you, Nectaria, thank you. So it's as I mentioned to you, it's for me a super pleasure, a super honor to have the opportunity to introduce Professor Loretta Fabbri. And I will do this starting from my double positionalities, not only as a member of this new emerging network, but as a medium stage researcher, member of the Italian Transformative Learning Network. So Loretta is a full professor of didactics and educational processes. She is one of the 4 co-founders of the Italian Transformative Learning Network, together with Maura Striano from University of Naples, Claudio Melacarne from University of Siena, and Monica Fedeli from University of Padua. And she is also the director of the international journal Educational Reflective Practice, which is the journal of the Italian Transformative Learning Network. Today, she's going to present a keynote speech on transformative learning in a post-reflexivity era. Will be really super challenging for our assumptions. And in order to be much more inclusive, we apologize if in the process of organizing this conference, we were not perfectly inclusive, but we are trying to improve this idea of building bridges and being more inclusive. The speech will be in Italian. We offered simultaneous translation. And when the simultaneous translation will be projected behind her shoulders in English, and when there will be moments of creation, improvisation, and a new output that she would provide that are not included in the translation, I will offer to translate with the help of the other colleagues from the Italian community, such Francesca, Martina, and all the other colleagues that are here together with us. We hope that you will appreciate our effort to create a moment of learning together, and that's the time to me to pass on the torch to Loretta Fabbri. Thank you.
Thank you a tutti. Prima domanda, perché parla in italiano? Io sono... Vorrei...
Okay, so we start immediately with the out of program. So she said, why, the first question is, why am I speaking English? Because I am a dysnomic, I have a cognitive difficulty in speaking fluently in English. I used to perform in English, but now at my age, I can search for other and multiple ways to communicate.
Allora, quindi vi chiedo un po' di pazienza. Allora, sono Loretta Fabbri, appartengo ad una comunità di ricercatori qualitativi che interagiscono con il... Scusate, io volevo salutare tutti i colleghi, a partire dalla presidente del nostro Transformative Learning, Hogan, Cocos, tutti quei colleghi con cui ho lavorato e ho incontrato in diversi luoghi, così come i giovani che sono con noi. Quindi mi fa piacere incontrarvi, mi fa piacere confrontarvi con voi con alcune sfide di cui vorrei parlare e discutere con voi.
So another out of a program. If you see, I have a plan B, which is not automatically recorded presentation with the same translation. This will be much more manageable, okay? Okay. So she said, first I wanted to greeting all the people that I have ever met during my experience as a researcher, Aliki Nicolaides as a president of the ITLA, Chad Hogan and Alexis Kokos, and all the new colleagues and researchers that I have been meeting since yesterday.
Allora, non mi ritengo un dinosauro per l'età, ma nella mia vita ho sempre cercato delle sfide culturali, e mi presento. Io sono una ricercatrice bianca, appartengo alla cultura, mio malgrado, alla cultura occidentale, e sono a rischio costante di razzializzazione della ricerca.
Another, okay, I want you know that when I'm speaking, it's because there will be some small changes, okay? So she said, I'm not a dinosaur, yeah, due to my age, and I'm still following some challenges that could inspire me for my research. She said, I present myself, I introduce myself, I'm Loretta Fabbri, I am a white researcher. I belong to the family of the qualitative researchers, and I am now facing the topic of the racialization of the research.
Perché sono arrivata all'apprendimento trasformativo? Poi ve lo leggo, però ora ve lo anticipo. Innanzitutto perché io mi sono sempre occupata di pratiche di cambiamento, ok? E quindi sono stata alla ricerca di quelle persone che si occupavano di trasformazione. Ho incontrato Medzerov nel 2006 a Siena. Perché Medzerov? Okay, perché, come dire, la teoria trasformativa? Perché io fuggivo, ve lo dico, da una tradizione europea, italiana, di educazione degli adulti legata a dei tradizioni che non condividevo. Cercavo un approccio empirico all'apprendimento, cercavo una teoria trasformativa dell'apprendimendimento, cioè che in qualche modo mi dicesse come. Puoi parlare di...
Yeah.
Ok, vai.
So she said, how did I arrive at the transformative learning theory? How did I meet Jack Mezirov? I was searching for other approaches, maybe different from, at that time, European, Italian, very theoretical approach in adult education. I was searching for something empirical, for a theory of transformation. And she met Mezirov in 2006.
Allora, ultima presa. Io ero dentro una tradizione di studi sulla pratica riflessiva, ok? Piuttosto che sulla razionalità riflessiva, ok? Quindi il mio rapporto con Mezirov, Vittoria, Alichiora è nato proprio da questa specificità, cioè questa differenza, ok?
I was at that time in the reflective practice tradition, a field of inquiry, not in the reflective rationality field of inquiry. And so my encounter with Mezirov, Victoria Marsic, and Aliki now was rooted in this distinction.
La mia tesi che vorrei discutere con voi è: esiste l'apprendimento trasformativo o esistono, gli apprendimenti trasformativi, tanti quanto sono il genere, il potere, le classi sociali e le etnie? Possiamo parlare al singolare o dobbiamo parlare al plurale? Quali sono le epistemologie e le sfide con cui oggi possiamo confrontarci a partire dalle criticità che l'apprendimento trasformativo ha e che noi amiamo?
So now the question that I want to pose you is that does it still exist just one theory of transformative learning, or multiple theories of transformative learning according to the ethnicity, according to the races, according to the gender, to the bodies, to the stories? That's the challenge. That's the question that I want to pose you. Okay, just give me the... Okay, from here. Thank you. I apologize for my translation, okay?
Allora,
From here. That's, yeah.
il mio è un ragionare collettivo. Io se non parlo, non discuto, non penso. Okay? Quindi quello che vi dirò ha a che fare con il confronto che ho con i colleghi della stessa generazione, di altre generazioni, appartenenti ad altri contesti.
What I'm going to tell you is the fruitful result, harvest of the exchange of ideas, the discussions and the conversations with other colleagues from my same generation and other generations. Because if I don't speak, if I don't discuss, I do not think. So it's the fruitful harvest of a collective process of discussion.
Perché parlo di riflessività? Perché parlo di apprendimento trasformativo a partire dalla riflessività? La mia prima fascinazione è stata verso questo costrutto, la cui narrazione scientifica lo collocava come dispositivo in grado di trasformare la realtà. E questo in un periodo in cui il dibattito scientifico stagnava tra paradigmi positivisti, metodologie qualitative e realismo ontologico. Ho incontrato la teoria trasformativa mentre collocavo le mie ricerche post-dottorato sullo studio della pratica, in quella che è stata definita una vera e propria svolta riflessiva, accaduta dentro traiettorie transdisciplinari. La riflessività in Italia, a partire dagli anni '80 del secolo scorso, è diventato un paradigma esemplare dal punto di vista epistemologico e metodologico. Il pensiero in pratica, la conoscenza in azione, gli studi organizzativi, a partire da Sean, Argyris, eccetera, hanno sempre delineato il pensiero in contesti ad alta densità pratica richiede l'esercizio artistico di razionalità e irrazionalità multiple che emergono dai contesti situati. Okay? Quindi noi abbiamo tentato di coniugare, di situare l'apprendimento trasformativo dentro l'azione situata e soprattutto parlare di pratiche riflessive che nascono nei contesti, piuttosto che avere una teoria, okay, che, come diceva la nostra Presidente, una teoria che in qualche misura identifica una teoria generale dell'apprendimento trasformativo.
This is a last addition. She said, so we deliberately choose to begin from the reflective practice instead and having a practice-based transformative learning theory instead of having, as Aliki mentioned in her first speech, a general theory of adult learning.
Vivere tra epistemologie plurali. Amiamo le nostre lagune. Quando mi avvicinai alla teoria trasformativa, sentii l'esigenza di continuare ad assumere la prospettiva delle epistemologie situate e della teoria della pratica riflessiva, con l'intenzione di riorientare le possibili e immaginabili metodologie del pensiero. Fornisco una breve panoramica di due costrutti a me molto cari: la teoria della comunità di pratica e la teoria dell'azione situata. Si tratta di teorie dell'apprendimento che contengono in sé la capacità di stabilire alleanze transindividuali e transrazionali. Nel mio percorso di ricerca i due costrutti hanno contenuto derive razionalistiche e individualistiche e che in parte la teoria trasformativa porta con sé. Si tratta di costrutti che si pongono lontano dal rischio di un taglio cartesiano al dispositivo trasformativo e riflessivo. Il concetto di apprendimento situato di Lev e Wenger si associa a quello di comunità di pratica con il suo valore relazionale, comunicativo, culturale e coinvolge gli attori, le attività e il mondo come elementi che si costituiscono reciprocamente. Insieme a Wenger si propone una prospettiva che afferma che l'apprendimento, il pensiero e il sapere sono relazioni fra persone attive nel e con il mondo socialmente, culturalmente strutturato. L'apprendimento può essere inteso come produzione storica, trasformazione e cambiamento delle persone. La teoria dell'azione situata porta dentro un'idea di apprendimento trasformativo di tipo intersezionale. Paradossalmente possiamo dire che l'apprendimento trasformativo non esiste. Esistono tanti apprendimenti trasformativi, tanti quanto sono i generi, le etnie, le forme di potere, l'appartenenza delle classi sociali. Possiamo parlare di post-riflessività? Voglio discutere con voi di alcune questioni che mi stanno appassionando, insieme sempre a Monica, Maura, Claudio, Aliki quando ci vediamo e chiunque incontriamo per poter discutere, quindi è un discorso aperto. Sento cambiamenti epistemologici e ontologici epocali, okay? Che mi prendono, che mi fanno sentire ricerca, che mi appassionano, che mettono in dubbio le mie posizioni scientifiche. Ve le ripropongo. Okay? La prospettiva post-umanista. Questa prospettiva introduce una distinzione tra gli approcci umanisti e post-umanisti, che non ho tematizzato. Sono sempre partiti dall'assunto umanista, gli esseri umani come principale fonte di agency, e metodologicamente sono stata interessata agli attori umani e agli oggetti in cui si reificano i propri significati. Sono nata sociocostruttivista. Il fatto di superare un'idea neopositivista del rapporto soggetto-oggetto, natura-cultura, mente-corpo, mascolinità e femminilità, razionalità e irrazionalità mi sembrava fondamentale. Sto parlando degli anni '80. Ho avuto pochi dubbi in seguito. Negli ultimi anni alcuni incontri, altre letture mi sorprendono. Per esempio le teorie non dualiste dell'interazione tra natura e cultura. Alcune tesi sostengono che il sociocostruttivismo si basa su una distinzione categorica tra il dato, la natura, e il costrutto, la cultura. Siete d'accordo?
Do you agree with this statement that some theses argue that social constructivism is based on a categorical distinction between the given and the constructed?
Che significa parlare di apprendimento trasformativo assumendo una prospettiva post-umanista? E ho una teoria della soggettività post-umanista. Seguire il post-umanesimo ha significato iniziare a pensare che il modo in cui noi teorizziamo la nostra umanità è riduttivo. Prospettiva post-qualitativa. Sono nata qualitativa in contrapposizione nel secolo scorso con l'egemonia dei metodi quantitativi. Okay. Io sono, lo dico, una militante della ricerca qualitativa e oggi mi interrogo sul post-qualitativo.
I need to lo devo tradurre quest'ultimo. She added, I was born as a qualitative researcher that was active against the predominancy of the quantitative methods. Now I am approaching the post-qualitative research methods.
Alcune colleghe filosofe, architette, appartenenti a diversi, si chiedono che cosa succederebbe se non ponessimo eccessiva attenzione alle pressioni e agli sviluppi esterni delle epistemologie neopositiviste, se sia opportuno confrontarsi con le implicazioni del post, Saint-Pierre per fare un nome. Come pensiamo, al di fuori della nostra formazione di ricercatori che hanno adottato una metodologia qualitativa umanista, che cosa ci sta sotto?
What is beneath?
Suggerisce che conviene sostituire questa pretesa di conoscenza universale con punti di vista da qualche parte. Noi siamo da qualche parte, diciamocelo, presentiamoci. Io sono femminista, sono post-qualitativa, queste sono le epistemologie personali che diventano... Vai.
So we are always somewhere, positioning ourselves. I'm a feminist, I'm a researcher, and so on.
Okay. La prospettiva sociomateriale. Se portiamo la prospettiva sociomateriale nel dominio dell'apprendimento trasformativo, dobbiamo tematizzare alcune questioni. L'apprendimento è trasformativo, è un accadere che investe la dimensione sociomateriale. Okay? Noi non parliamo solo di idee. La TEAE sostiene che nessun fenomeno, nessun elemento, nessuna persona può essere descritta adeguatamente se gli individui, i ricercatori nel nostro caso, non abbandonano distinzioni artificiose tra pensieri, tra persone, idee, oggetti, manufatti, natura, uniti in una rete di associazioni che si sviluppano nel tempo. Postumanità, sociomaterialismo. Che significa portarli nel dominio dell'apprendimento trasformativo? Scusate, ho perso il... okay. Sono aperte conversazioni interdisciplinari su cosa significa essere umani nel contesto dell'implicazione delle persone nel destino del pianeta. Su cosa significhi essere umani e se umano e non umano non sono definibili singolarmente. Sono interrogativi. Ho bisogno di voi.
Those are questions. I need you.
Nessuno dei due elementi può essere spiegato in termini di un altro, se nessuno ha uno status privilegiato nel determinare l'altro. Cosa succede se pensiamo alle prospettive di significato partendo dall'assunto che il significato non è una proprietà delle singole parole, scusate, che il significato non è una proprietà delle singole parole, ma interpretato come una performance continua nel mondo, nella sua intelligibilità differenziale. Credo che le tradizionali classificazioni sulle diverse rappresentazioni della teoria trasformativa debbano attraversare territori più sfidanti. Classificazioni appartenenti al Novecento, quelle che crescono ora e ci sfidano. Dove ci posizioniamo noi? Abbiamo bisogno di definirci psicocritici oppure abbiamo bisogno di fare conversazioni?
A lot of the previous classifications were based on the last century view, okay? What are the new possibilities? How can we pose ourselves? We need more than classifications to have a conversation.
Stiamo esplorando cosa significa portare queste discussioni e conversazioni nel dominio dell'analisi del teacher learning. Transformative learning, scusate. Sono questi gli elementi che vogliamo studiare come impatto nella teoria del transformative learning nell'era della post-riflessività e nel post-umanesimo. Oggi possiamo parlare di post-riflessività. Che cosa ci induce a discutere criticamente le basi teorico-empiriche su cui si fonda l'apprendimento trasformativo? Questi costrutti che vi ho presentato rappresentano alcune delle sfide che al nostro gruppo interessa approfondire, ponendosi dentro uno spettacolo aperto a cui si può aggiungere sempre qualcosa. Grazie. Allora, questi saranno temi che noi approfondiremo lo possiamo dire, alla conference mondiale che si terrà a Siena nel 24, e di questo ringrazio la nostra Presidente Aliki. E perché, e questo devo dire, ho realizzato un sogno.
So this topic will be deepened during the next International Transformative Learning Conference that will be hosted at the University of Siena in September 2024. And we need to thank Aliki for this because Loretta said, I have realized a dream.
Non è facile costruire un'identità culturale scientifica, okay? Soprattutto se vogliamo un po' essere visionari.
It's not easy to build on a scientific and cultural identity, especially if we are trying to be visionary and imaginative.
Le nostre scelte non sono a caso. Noi non abbiamo, per esempio, collaborazioni reali con l'ISREA, perché l'apprendimento trasformativo è un'altra cosa. Non coincidono. Quindi, scusate, ho sbagliato, con gli studi sull'educazione degli adulti.
Okay.
Okay.
So she said, our choices are not the fruitful of a casual choice. For example, in choosing our collaboration, we are searching for who is investigating transformative learning, because transformative learning is not the entire field, does not coincide 100% with adult education, for example, which is the main topic of the ISREA.
I nostri rapporti con l'Europa sono stati sempre mediati dal Transformative Learning, COCOS e gli altri colleghi che hanno partecipato e hanno contribuito a. Prego.
Our relationship with Europe have been always mediated through transformative learning with the colleagues that have dealt with the transformative learning theory, such as Alexis and the other European colleagues.
Ok. Quindi io vi aspetto. Un'ultima cosa. I network, okay, sono delle aggregazioni informali, okay, che condividono una pratica. In genere nascono dal basso e francamente vi dico che quelli che nascono dall'alto, io ho qualche difficoltà, cioè vorrei capire, io sono qua aperta, ma vorrei capire su quali idee, su quale questione, su che cosa litigare o andare d'accordo.
Okay, she said, usually the network are in that direction because they started from the bottom. They started from the down, okay? And so it's very difficult if a network starts from the top, if it uses a top-down approach. So we are here to understand what are the topics on which we can have argument or on which we can have discussions and so on.
Il costrutto che io amo è coltivazione. Coltivazione, ok? Le cose nascono, noi le possiamo coltivare ma non imporre.
So it's very important to keep our mind on the cultivation construct, because the things can be born, can grow, but it's important that we cultivate things, not we can impose things.
I colleghi del Transformative Learning ci hanno coltivato. Noi ci sentiamo come comunità coltivata, arricchita da dibattiti sinceri, leali e autentici. E grazie a questa coltivazione poi nascono delle comunità più ampie, come quella italiana, come quella greca ed altre. Ma il principio è la comunità nasce dalla condivisione di una pratica o di un'idea. Per questo io sono qua, saluto questo progetto con tutte le riserve che io mi sento di dare. Aperto il confronto, okay, non dobbiamo essere mai unanimistici, l'unanimità è una malattia è una disfunzione epistemologica. Ok? Vai.
So it's very important because the transformative learning community cultivated us. We feel that we have had the opportunity to be cultivated in the transformative learning community, exchanging ideas, having conversations with the colleagues from transformative learning. So I am here to open dialogue, to open discussions with this new project.
Vorrei ringraziare, poi finisco,
Yeah.
tutti quelli che sono con me. Stefano Oliviero, Francesca Bracci, Mario Giampaolo, Alessandro Romano, Claudia Banchetti, Nicolina Bosco, Martina Capaccioli, Sef, Davide Sciolfi e questi sono i nostri giovani e poi chi mi ha, come dire, i teorici che hanno lavorato con me, con cui ho conversato. Edward Taylor, Gerardi Silvia, Sennett, St. Pierre, Roth, Bauman, Brookfield, Braidotti, Bel Kokos, Alexi Kokos, Aliki e Nicolais, Libby Tisdale e tanti altri, ma queste sono le persone con cui io ho conversato o attraverso le loro opere o attraverso della dialettica.
So I think that you more or less understood all the people that are mentioned. And she said, I want to thank those people, both the people from the Italian Transformative Learning Network and both the people from the international community, because it's through the dialectic that she has had the opportunity to develop new perspective according to the exchange with those researchers.
Vi porto i saluti anche del mio collega Claudio Melacarne che vi saluta insieme a Monica, insieme a Mauro Astrano, e vi saluto e vi ringrazio e aiutatemi a rispondere a queste domande. Grazie.
No, so now we can leave the floor to some questions, some discussions or also some reactions that you can have. First, we want to really thank you for your patience with the double language. We really tried to be inclusive, and so for us it's very important that you were paying respectful attention to both the two versions of the speech. And I apologize, I tried to be respectful for the original version. I think more or less I have respected all the original, like very punctual translation, yeah. But I hope that you have had the opportunity to catch the sense of the speech. And also if you have questions, reactions, feelings that you want to share, comments, feedback, please, just, yeah.
Thank you very much. Grazie mille, right? Okay. I just want to appreciate the way that Loretta and Alessandra, you're working together. In a way, you're enacting the very ideas of a more than human, interactive, cultivation. And so I just want to notice that even though we're in the context of an amphitheater, the chairs don't move, we're in an institution of higher learning, we are doing things differently, and you are doing things differently. So thank you.
Thank you for this appreciation, Aleki. Thank you so much. Thank you. More questions, comments? Doubt. We wanna doubt. Skepticism. Skepticism is always fine. Yes, please.
What is
In Portuguese.
What is the, in Portuguese, that'll be a difficult one.
Keep the microphone and I will translate. Thank you.
What is your methodology in setting the framework for more challenging conversations?
Thank you for your question.
Il primo approccio è cercare di avere delle prospettive interdisciplinari. L'interdisciplinarità è una prospettiva, quindi il mio modo è cercare tesi che non la pensano come me. Okay? Cercare, aprire dibattiti, okay, con epistemologie, pratiche che mettono in discussione quello che sto pensando. Sono una sociocostruttivista, in questo momento ho aperto una conversazione interdisciplinare con il realismo ontologico.
Okay. So first, I had in my mind an interdisciplinary perspective. I had a thesis in my mind. I searched for another perspective that could put into good trouble my assumption, my perspective. For example, I am a socio-constructivist. Now I'm facing the other perspective of the ontological realism that could put in question my assumption. Grazie. Obrigado. Oh, Danny Wildemerch, I will bring you the microphone. Thank you. Danny will be the third keynote speaker that tomorrow will challenge us with his speech.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Loretta, for your presentation. And the core of, I will give just a comment. The core of your presentation has to do with the experience that, or your experience, that we are in a period when things are shifting, are changing, and you try to grasp the changes which take place also in our thinking, with the notions of post-humanist or social material and post-qualitative. So I think that's very interesting because you try to develop a new story on an epistemological story also about how we have learned to construct our realities, our research methodologies, and so on. But I now notice that in the public debate on education, there is some kind of very neoconservative movement going on in the direction of let's go back to the traditional ways of teaching. Let's go back to the traditional ways of transferring knowledge. Let's get rid of this constructivist stuff because we cannot compete. If we do so, we do not prepare our students for a harsh, competitive society and so on. So it's very important to give up all these new ideas, constructivist ideas, and so on. So my question, or my question is, how do you engage with that public debate which goes on, probably also in Italy, because the neoconservative tendencies in the entire Europe or in the Western world are very prominent nowadays. So could you please give some comment on that?
Sì, sì, sì. Allora, thank you. Io tendo a muovermi quando io parlo di comunità di pratica, ok? Per me è un modo per procedere. Nel senso che io ho questi interessi, ok? C'è una comunità che non conosco, che conosco virtualmente e una comunità che conosco personalmente. Condividiamo queste pratiche che mettono in discussione il ritorno al quantitativo, addirittura, come si chiama, al computazionale. Cioè, e dico, ok, io sono qualitativa, post-qualitativa. Con la mia comunità, finché condivido alcuni assunti, si va avanti e ci confrontiamo. Noi ci siamo, ok? E per esempio sul post-qualitativo io devo aprire un dibattito allargato, ok? Vai.
So thank you for your questions. I tried to search for community of practice as a way to move forward. So when I am assuming a perspective such as the qualitative perspective or the post-qualitative perspective, I needed to create a community of researchers that can confront and debate among this topic, okay? So we are here, and so we can exchange ideas and work together and share this perspective. So we know that there is this kind of tendency back to the quantitative measurement, the computational thinking, but I am moving through communities of practice interested in investigating some topics and some issues, such as this one of the post-qualitative. She said, I know that I cannot face this perspective by myself. I needed to expand my debate, expand my conversations, expand my horizon of exchanges in order to create communities around this.
Un'ultima cosa,
Yeah.
è sempre una questione di identità culturale, ok? Io fino a forse 10 anni fa ero una ricercatrice, okay, bianca, okay, borghese, appartenente alla cultura occidentale e non consapevole. Oggi, dentro l'università, sono una docente cosciente del rischio delle pratiche razzializzate, del fatto del genere e dell'etnia, e sono in difficoltà. Che facciamo? Noi in ricerca. Cerco esempi, paradigmi, ok? Umanista, post-umanista. Io so che sul post-umanista avremo contro le ideologie, le religioni, le teorie scientifiche dure. Loro fanno il loro gioco, noi facciamo il nostro. Vediamo.
So again, I start always from the recognition of my cultural positioning and of my cultural and scientific identity. I'm a white researcher, I'm a class, and I'm a woman in academia, and so I needed to start from this kind of recognition. We know that facing the topic, dealing with the topic of the post-humanist, we can fight against some other ideologies, some other religions, some other ideological perspectives, and so on. But we will see. That's a conversation, and they have their own perspectives. They play their game, and we are trying to play ours. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, just one more question. One more question, we will end. Nectaria, because you already, yeah. I know, because we then needed to move on to the parallel.
Professor Loretta Fabbri, grazie mille. It was very inspiring, your keynote speech. I would like to say something from another discipline, or for another, let's say, scientific field, or as you call it, interdisciplinary approach. I'm very happy to see that the post-humanism direction that you mentioned is now in the first line of intercultural, multicultural education, what we call post-intercultural perspective. It's the same as Jagdish Gundara, who is in the field of intercultural education, says, out of mind, out of sight, which means that something that is not in our mind, we can't see that, but we restrict our narrow self or our narrow mind to a specific perspective. So Donna Haraway's and your contribution is also in the field of intercultural education. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that we needed to finish because we needed to leave the space for the parallel session. E questo è un regalo per te. This is a small gift for you. Thank you. You can, yeah, you can. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Now we have to divide in 3 groups. One group is going to stay here in the amphitheater, and the other 2 groups are going to use, according to the program, room number 7 and room number 8, which are located on your way out, and then to the left, and then again to the left. In this university, you go to the left, and then again to the left, and you will find the 2 rooms. There's a big sign there, and people are there are going to help you. Maria, please also use your Italian language skills to help people move around to rooms number 7 and 8. Thank you very much.